It was a quiet evening in Indiana, the kind of silence that usually soothes a weary soul after a long day. But for me, that silence was ripped apart by the cold glow of my computer screen. There, sitting in my inbox, was an email from my daughter, Bright. My only daughter, my pride, my reason for breathing for the past 28 years. I clicked on it without hesitation, smiling at the thought of what sweet words she might have written. But the moment my eyes touched the message, it was as though someone had reached inside my chest and crushed my heart with their bare hands. "Mother, I do not want you to attend my wedding. Please just watch it online." I stared at those words until the letters blurred through the flood of tears in my eyes. My lips trembled as if I could speak life back into that message, rewrite it with love. But it was too late. It was written, and it was meant for me. My daughter, my flesh and blood, the one I raised alone after her father passed, the one I sacrificed everything for, the one I worked 2 jobs to feed, clothe, and send to school. And here she was telling me that I was not welcome at the most important day of her life? I could hear the echo of my own voice whispering, "Felicia, what did you do to deserve this?" My chest grew tight, my hands shook, and I felt as though I was drowning in an ocean of betrayal. But what cut me deepest was not just the words she wrote, it was the silence behind them. The silence of a daughter who had not even given me the courtesy of explaining why. And just when I thought my pain had reached its peak, a small line at the bottom of the email seared me deeper. "Please do not ruin this for me." Ruin? Did my own daughter see me as a burden? Or worse, a shame? I slammed my laptop shut and buried my face in my trembling hands. But even as I sat in the dark, one question burned inside me like fire. Why does my own daughter not want me at her wedding? Before I go on, I want to pause for a brief moment to say thank you to every single one of you watching this. If you are new here, I truly welcome you from the bottom of my heart. And if you are a returning viewer, you have no idea how much your support means to me. Every subscription, every like, every comment, it fuels me. It gives me strength to keep telling these stories, no matter how painful or raw they may be. So, if you have not yet subscribed, please, I encourage you to do so right now. It is the energy that keeps this channel alive. And please, do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them. Now, let us get back to my story. My name is Felicia. I am 58 years old, and I live in Indiana. I lost my husband, Charles, 25 years ago. A drunk driver stole him from us when our daughter, Bright, was only 3 years old. Since then, I raised her on my own. I never remarried. I never put myself first. Everything, every single breath I took was for her. Bright was a brilliant child, determined, ambitious. She worked hard in school, and I was proud when she became the first in our family to graduate from college. She wanted more from life, and I wanted that for her too. For years, it was just us two against the world. I believed nothing could ever break the bond we shared. But then came David. David was charming when he wanted to be, but I never trusted him fully. He was from a wealthy family in Indianapolis, and from the beginning, I could sense the way Margaret looked at me, the way her eyes scanned my thrift store dress at Bright's graduation party, the way her smile faltered whenever I spoke. I knew she judged me. To her, I was a simple woman, a widow with nothing but grit and aging hands. But I never imagined that her disdain could creep into my daughter's heart. After receiving that email, my mind raced. I remembered every warning sign, the times Bright canceled our lunch dates because she was too busy with David's family, the moments she flinched whenever Margaret made backhanded compliments about me, the slow, steady distance that had begun to grow between us, a distance I had ignored because I thought love was stronger. I picked up my phone and called Bright immediately. My fingers shook so hard I almost dropped it. The line rang and rang until finally she answered. Her voice was calm, cold. "Mother, I knew you would call." "Bright," I whispered, my throat tight. "Why would you say such a thing to me? Why would you not want me at your wedding after everything we have been through?" There was a long silence on the other end, and then she sighed. "Mother, please understand. This is my day. I just need peace. If you love me, you will stay away. Please do not ruin this for me." The words sliced through me like glass. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg. I wanted to shake her and remind her of every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every moment I had given her. But before I could say another word, she ended the call. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my reflection trembling in the dark screen. My daughter was shutting me out, and I had no idea why. But I knew one thing, this story was not ending here. I was going to find out the truth. After that phone call, I barely slept. My house in Indiana felt colder than ever. Every corner seemed to whisper memories of Bright, her baby laughter, her teenage tantrums, the mornings when I braided her hair before school. I sat up through the night, staring at the faded photographs on my wall, pictures of us smiling at the county fair, her graduation day, birthdays where she sat on my lap, blowing out candles with frosting on her nose. Each memory made her email feel like a dagger twisting deeper in my chest. How had we come from unbreakable closeness to this cruel silence? I told myself perhaps it was stress. Weddings were overwhelming, and maybe she had written those words in a moment of panic. Maybe she would call and apologize. I clung to that hope like a drowning woman clutching driftwood. But days passed. No apology came, no explanation, just silence. I walked through my small kitchen one morning, staring at the pile of unopened bills on the counter when the phone rang. It was my sister-in-law, Janet. Her voice was low, almost hesitant. "Felicia, I need to tell you something, but you must promise me you will not cry." My stomach knotted. "What is it?" She sighed. "I overheard Margaret talking at a bridal fitting. She said it would be best if you were not at the wedding. She called you an embarrassment. She told people you would ruin the image of their family in front of the wealthy guests." I felt my knees buckle. "An embarrassment?" "Yes," Janet whispered. "She has been planting seeds of doubt in Bright's mind for months. Margaret is controlling everything, where the wedding is held, what dress Bright wears, even the guest list. She does not want you there, Felicia, and I fear Bright is listening to her." I could barely breathe. Margaret, the woman who always looked at me like I was less than nothing. A woman whose family had wealth and power while I had nothing but scars and hard work to my name. I never imagined she would dare to rip my daughter away from me. My eyes burned as I whispered into the receiver. All these years I thought it was me, but it was her. She poisoned my child against me. After the call, I sank into the old armchair by my window, my hands trembling on my lap. The truth weighed heavily on me.
Margaret was behind this. She wanted to erase me from Bright's life the same way she erased me from the wedding. I closed my eyes and remembered a different time. I remembered when Charles was alive. He was strong, loving, and full of laughter. He always told me, "Felicia, no matter how hard life gets, our daughter will always know love." But when he died in that car crash, I promised him on his grave that I would raise Bright to know her worth. I worked nights at the diner, days at the grocery store. I mended other people's clothes for extra dollars, sometimes skipping meals so Bright would never go hungry. I thought love was enough. I thought sacrifice spoke louder than wealth. But now it seemed Margaret's diamonds and pearls had drowned out every sacrifice I ever made. The shame clawed at me. I wondered if maybe Bright was embarrassed of my old dresses, my modest home, the way I still drove the same worn-out car from her childhood. Had my love not been enough for her? For days I debated what to do. Should I accept her wish and stay away, watching my daughter marry the man she loves through the cold glass of a computer screen? Or should I fight for my place, risk angering her, and show her that I'm not so easily erased? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Staying away would mean giving Margaret exactly what she wanted, and I could not let that woman win. I began asking quiet questions. I visited the bridal shop pretending to look at dresses, only to overhear more gossip. I asked Janet to keep her ears open. The more I learned, the more it sickened me. Margaret had been relentless, mocking me behind my back, reminding Bright that her future husband deserved a proper family image. Every lie Margaret planted grew into roots of doubt in my daughter's heart. One evening, as the sun set and the streets outside my window glowed orange, I made my decision. If my daughter believed she could push me aside, then she was mistaken. If Margaret thought she could bury me in shame, she was wrong. I was Felicia. I had survived widowhood, poverty, and endless nights of loneliness, and I would not let anyone erase me from my child's life. I whispered aloud into the quiet room, as though speaking to my late husband's spirit. "Charles, forgive me, but I cannot stay silent. I will be at that wedding, no matter what it takes." And in that moment, I felt the fire of defiance ignite inside me. I did not know how. I did not know what it would cost me, but I would be there, even if it meant shocking everyone. The days leading up to Bright's wedding were like walking through a storm with no umbrella. My heart was bruised, my pride shattered, but my spirit burned with a determination I had not felt in years. I sat at my kitchen table one night, the wedding invitation spread before me. It had arrived weeks earlier, before the email, and I had placed it on my fridge with pride. Now the gold letters mocked me. Together with their families, Bright and David invite you. Together with their families? I was her family, and yet here I was, unwanted. The invitation listed the venue, an exclusive country club just outside Indianapolis. Margaret's choice, no doubt. Elegant, grand, a place where she could flaunt her wealth to every guest in sight. I knew the event would be streamed online, heavily managed so only chosen viewers could watch. That was the future Margaret had carved out for me, a silent, invisible witness on the other side of a screen. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I could not accept it. I had spent years watching from the sidelines of life. I watched from the back row as Bright performed in her school plays, never daring to push forward among the wealthy parents. I watched from the edge of her college graduation stage, clapping quietly while others screamed with pride. I refused to watch her wedding from a distance. Not this time. I began to plan.
First, I reached out to Janet. My sister-in-law had always been loyal to me. I asked her if she could find out more details about the ceremony. With a little hesitation, she agreed. Days later, she called me back with whispered urgency. "Felicia, they are checking names at the gate." Margaret made sure of it. "Only guests with formal invitations are allowed in." I sighed, staring at my old dress hanging by my closet door. Then I will need another way. That night, I drove to the country club. I parked at a distance and watched. The place was surrounded by tall fences, with guards posted at the main entrance. The marble pillars gleamed in the moonlight, and the banquet hall glittered with chandeliers even from outside. It was a fortress built for pride. But I had broken through worse walls in my life. As I sat in my car, I thought about the years I had clawed through poverty. I remembered sneaking into warehouses to clean after hours just to earn extra money. I remembered patching Bright's torn dresses late at night so she would never feel the weight of our struggle. If I could survive all that, I could survive this. Still, a voice inside me whispered, "What if you are wrong? What if you walk in and Bright hates you forever?" That thought tore at me. I love my daughter more than anything. The last thing I wanted was to lose her completely. But what kind of mother would I be if I allowed Margaret's poison to control our bond? I wrestled with my thoughts until the answer became clear. Sometimes love is not about silence. Sometimes love demands courage, even if it risks rejection. On the morning of the wedding, I stood before the mirror, dressed in the only gown I owned, a simple navy blue dress I had worn to a church banquet years ago. It was not glamorous, but it was clean and pressed. I wore the locket Charles had given me on our wedding day, the one Bright used to play with as a child. As I pinned back my hair, I whispered to myself, "Felicia, you are not going there to fight. You are going there to remind your daughter who you are, to remind her who she is." When I arrived at the country club, my heart pounded so loudly I feared it might give me away. The gates were crowded with guests, dressed in glittering gowns and sharp tuxedos. Cars lined up, attendants checked names. I stood at a distance, clutching my small purse. I could feel Margaret's eyes and my imagination already rolling at the sight of me, but I swallowed my fear. And then fate intervened. As a group of musicians unloaded their instruments from a van, I saw my chance. They were busy, distracted, and the security at the side door barely glanced at them. With my head down and my steps quick, I slipped behind them carrying one of their small cases as though I belonged. My heart raced with every step, but no one stopped me. Suddenly, I was inside. The hall was breathtaking, walls draped in white silk, tables set with golden cutlery, and a sea of flowers so rich their scent filled the air. Guests mingled, laughter and champagne flowing. I hid behind a pillar, clutching my chest, my eyes scanning for one face. And then I saw her, my daughter, Bright, dressed in white, radiant, breathtaking. My heart swelled with pride and ache all at once. For a moment, I forgot everything else. That was my child, my baby girl. But then Margaret stepped into view, her hand on Bright's arm, whispering into her ear, and I saw the shadow cross my daughter's face. I knew then that Margaret's poison still lingered, and as the music began and the crowd turned toward the altar, I realized there was no turning back. I took a deep breath, stepped out from behind the pillar, and walked into the open. Heads turned, gasps echoed across the hall. Murmurs spread like wildfire. My daughter froze, her eyes locked on me. And in that moment, I knew I had just set the entire wedding on fire. The hall fell silent the moment I stepped forward. My heels echoed against the marble floor, each sound heavier than the last. I could feel hundreds of eyes on me, guests clutching their champagne glasses, whispering behind manicured hands. I had been invisible for so long, but now I was the center of attention. Bright's face turned pale, her bouquet trembling in her hands. She looked like a statue caught between beauty and fear. And then, before she could even speak, Margaret swept forward. Her lips curled into the kind of smile that was more venom than warmth. "Well, well, Felicia," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "I suppose even uninvited guests can find their way in, but I must say, this is not your place. This is a wedding, not whatever corner of Indiana you crawled out of." Laughter rippled from a few of her wealthy friends. My cheeks burned, but I stood tall. I had not come here to bow my head. "I am her mother," I said firmly. "That makes this my place as much as anyone else's." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Her mother? Do you truly believe a proper wedding like this needs the spectacle of your presence?" I begged Bright to think of her future, to think of her reputation. But clearly, you could not respect her wishes. Gasps scattered through the hall. Bright lowered her head, her eyes glistening. I could see the battle inside her. I took a deep breath and spoke from the pit of my soul. "Margaret, you have spent months trying to erase me. But you forget, while you have wealth and diamonds, I had something you could never buy. I raised my daughter with my own 2 hands after her father died. I worked double shifts so she could eat. I went without so she could have. Every tear I wiped, every lesson I taught, it was me. Not you. Not your money. Me." I turned to Bright, my voice breaking. "And now, my child, I need to know, do you truly believe I am unworthy to stand by your side? After everything?" Bright's lips parted, but no words came. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Margaret stepped closer, her hand pressing against Bright's arm like a chain. "Do not let her manipulate you, darling. She is nothing but a weight dragging you down. This wedding is about stepping into a better life, not clinging to a past you should be ashamed of." My chest tightened, but I forced myself to hold my ground. This was it, the moment that would either heal or shatter us forever. Bright finally looked up. Her eyes met mine, wide and wet with tears. "Mother," she cracked, I do not know what to do." I felt the weight of years collapse on me. "Do what your heart knows is right, Bright. Not what you are told. Not what looks good on paper. What your heart tells you." There was a long pause. Then, with trembling hands, Bright pulled her arm away from Margaret's grip. The hall gasped again. "Enough," she said, her voice shaking but strong. "Enough, Margaret. I let you convince me that my mother was an embarrassment. I let you make me believe her love was not enough. But standing here, I see the truth. She gave me everything, and I nearly betrayed her for the sake of appearances." Margaret's face twisted in fury. "You will regret this, Bright. You will regret choosing her over us." Bright shook her head. "No. The only regret I would have is letting someone else tell me who my mother is." The entire hall erupted in murmurs. Some guests nodded with approval. Others stared in disbelief. But I did not care. My daughter had chosen me. Bright rushed toward me, her gown sweeping across the floor, and threw her arms around me. Her tears soaked my shoulder as she whispered, "I'm so sorry, Mother. I should have never doubted you." My own tears finally fell, but this time they were tears of release.
I held her close, feeling her heartbeat against mine, just as I did when she was a child. The ceremony continued, but it was different now. Bright insisted that I stand with her, front and center. Margaret retreated to the shadows, her power broken in that moment. And though the wedding moved forward, the true victory had already been won. The bond between mother and daughter had been restored. When I walked out of that country club later that night, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because the pain had vanished, but because I had faced it. I had stood tall. I had reminded my daughter and myself of who I truly was. As I look back now, I realize something important. Wealth fades. Appearances crumble. But love, the kind that survives sacrifice and storms, can never be erased. Margaret nearly succeeded in breaking us apart, but in the end, the truth stood taller than her lies. So if you are listening to this, remember, never let anyone convince you that your worth is measured by money or reputation. Love and sacrifice are treasures no one can steal. Thank you so much for staying with me through this story. I would love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done in my place? Would you have walked away quietly, or would you have fought for your seat at your child's wedding? Please drop your answers in the comments below. And if you have not already, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these stories alive. Until next time, remember, every family carries secrets, but it is love that decides which ones survive.